Welcome everyone to the Reading Writing Corner. I'm your host Leanne, and if this is your first time here, welcome. Come in, sit down, pull up a seat. Well, pull up a seat and sit down. I don't know why I always say that backwards, but whatever. And if you've been here before, welcome to the non-spoiler part of this review of The Eight by Catherine Neville. This is part of a series called Eight, and it's actually a duology. So it's only got 2 books. And no, I did not read the sequel. And I'm not going to. Now about the series. It is about a magic chessboard that once you play the game, you must complete it. It is a dangerous game with terrible consequences. What made me read this book? I like the cover. And I thought it was going to be a good book based off from the cover. Also, this up here, readers thrilled by the Da Vinci Code will relish the multi-layered secrets of the Eight. I thought that was going to be a lot like the Da Vinci Code, which I've seen the movie for, so I thought I was going to enjoy this book. Computer expert Kat Viles is heading for a job in Algeria. Before she goes, a mysterious fortune teller warns her of danger, and an antique dealer asks her to search for pieces to a valuable chess set that has been missing for years. In the south of France in 1790, 2 Covenant girls hide valuable pieces of chess set all over the world because the game that can be played with them is too powerful. So 2 women's lives are unintentionally entwined after a chess game comes into play. It is a dangerous game. I do not know much more about this. The setup of the main characters took 2 chapters, as these characters were set up in different time and place. Each had to take time to explain their locations, time period, and what they did for a living before anything else could be done. The motives for one of them was made clear, but the other was not the time that I DNF'd the book. So I didn't finish the book. I got to about page 45, and I couldn't get no further than that. Like, honestly, I wanted to get further, but I didn't find joy within reading this, and that's kind of a weird thing. So I guess chess, it really isn't my thing. How do the characters react to the situation and place? And for the amount of pages that I read, they reacted to the situations how I expected them to react. Like young girls in a covenant, like, oh my god, do we really have to do this? And all that stuff. And of course, someone who thinks they're doing right within their computer company as a female and one of the only ones hired, you know, I expect her to struggle with, this is a man's world, you gotta do what I say. The genre is considered to be a mystery and a thriller. I also think it turns into a romance because I think for the second book, it is one of the two of the characters in here, daughter. So, yeah. Did this live up to my expectations? No, not at all. The setup was interesting for the first main character, but it was more stale and boring for the second one, as it took twice as long to introduce the character. I tried to get into it, but the setup was taking too long for the second character, and it did not compel me to read further. Like, I got to the end of the setup of the second one, but I just lost so much interest in it, because like we were going back to the past, and I was just like, I really just don't want to read this. I'm not interested in it anymore. Like, I am not interested in who does what or anything like that. It just dropped off for me, and I hate that. Because it read as interesting in the beginning, but I didn't realize I was going to switch between 2 different ones in 2 different eras. Which character do I relate to the most? No one, because I didn't get to read the whole thing, so I don't really know all that much about the characters besides what I read about them. Which secondary character stood out the most? Once again, no one, because I didn't get far enough for anybody to stick out. Besides the fact that her cousin, Muriel's cousin, Valentine, really didn't want to be a nun. That's about it. What was more important, the characters or the plot? Honestly, I can't tell you because I did not read enough of it to get a sense of what was more important. because it was still in the setup stages of the story. 45 pages in, and you're still getting set up for it. As far as I know, it had two voices because it switched between Murielia's and Catherine Viles. That's the whole premise of it, I believe, and it did not affect my story. The time shift threw me off at first, but maybe that's what made me DNF the book, was the time shifts. Not sure. Should you go and read this series? I would say yes, because it's a thrill and a mystery that dealt with switching time periods with a dabble of magic in a dangerous chess game. So if you're interested in chess, yes. If you're interested in dual time periods within a book, yes. If you like the little bit of magic that happens in this, because the chess set's evil, then yes, read this. If not, don't. And it is, only thing it's really got to do with the Da Vinci Code is the adventure of solving a mystery, along with ancient times tying into the present. So that will be the end of this non-spoiler review. If you think I deserve a like, your comment, or even your lovely subscription, please drop it down below. And if you do not want to stay for the spoiler part of the section, please exit gently, softly, and go watch another video of mine. Alright, so in this book you meet the main character, side character, and important recurring characters. However, I'm only going to speak of the few that I had been introduced to before I DNF'd the book, which was probably not a lot. So you have Valentine, a young nun, only because all her family had died and her grandfather, Count de Remy, sent her to the, whatchamacallit place? It's in the very first chapter. She gets sent to the Montaglane Abbey in France, and he set up a, he gave her a lot of care for her and her cousin. She was commanded to be a part of a grouping in Paris for other nuns having a piece of the dangerous chess game. So she was to be set in Paris, and if any of the nuns who had a piece of the dangerous chess piece or didn't have it, could go to her for help or assistance. Murieli, the one who actually matters within this story as far as I could tell, because it's her point of view, cousin to Valentine, and Tessa's keeping Valentine in line. She, I believe, was the more important character out of Valentine and Murieli. The abbess, head of the church, tasked with keeping the chessboard safely stashed away, and the one that taught the nuns at the Montaglane Abbey. Jacques Upham, boss of the Big 8 company that Catherine Viles worked at. Liesel Holmgren, her upper-class workman, Catherine's upper-class workman that got her voted to go to Algeria as a way to protect her of sorts, because there was another place that was apparently worse for her to go to work at. Catherine Viles, a tech nerd that was damn good at her job. A fortune teller told her her trip for work was going to be dangerous and that she needed to be careful and not trust anything. Her friend's brother-in-law, Leilwili, was tasked with finding a treasure in the remote of Algeria. He wanted her help locating it because he could not go there. And so, Henry, her friend with the brother-in-law, I can't spell his name. Lynn. I'm gonna call him Lynn, because it's Lewellyn. I'm gonna call him Lynn. Okay, and he had a daughter who was invested in chess. She wanted to be chess champion. He had sold with a chauffeur to Harry because he was rich, I guess. And of course, Lily was a chess player that Catherine was supposed to convince not to play chess. I don't know how that was involved in any way, shape, or form. So, as far as I know, there are two PVs within the story that I have read so far that were Murieli and Catherine. So, my favorite character was no one because I didn't read far enough to get a favorite character. And my most disliked character was know him because I didn't get far enough to read to find a character to dislike. It was not told in chronological order, as one of the main characters set over 100 years in the past. It did have appropriate language for the amount of the book that I read. Who knows if it had it all the way throughout. There was some foreshadowing and suspense to the point that I read, like at the end of the chapter that dealt with Valentine and Morelli leaving to go to Paris. You saw a man on a horse watching them leave. And of course the fortune teller for the foreshadowing. I do not know if the background is explained enough to understand, as I couldn't get into the book, so I couldn't finish it. The title of the book meant, for as far as I could tell, the 8 people tasked with keeping part of the chess set safe and scattered across the world, as well as with the big 8 companies that ruled the world at that time, I guess? I don't really know. The cover of the book was the chess game in play. What stood out as memorable? I don't know, because I didn't get far for it to stand out, for anything to stand out. I mean, I guess if you really want to say something that stood out was the fact that Charlemagne was in this. King Charlemagne. And he made a bet that he normally doesn't make, a life and death bet, that he doesn't normally make for playing chess because the evil of the chess did it. I like the fact that Charlemagne was in it only because Charlemagne was in the Silver Wolf, Night of the Wolf, and King of the Wolf. The Wolf King by Alice Brochard. That was the only part that I could consider standing out as memorable. My favorite passage from what I had read is a master of battle strategy. He had a special fondness for one game, known as a game of war, the game of kings. It was a game of chess. Charlemagne, King Charlemagne right there. That's what he had a passion for. Yay. My favorite quote from what I read. Your Highness has made a blood wager over the board, a wager upon a man's life, the highest form of justice. Which I'm not understanding anything about why wagering a person's life would be the highest form of justice. But okay, that's what you want. What I thought about the ending of the book. I have no thoughts because I did not read the ending of the book, but I can read it right now if you want me to. And spoil myself. Because I'm not going to read the rest of the book. I'm not going to read it. I'm not going to read nothing else. But I can gather what's going to happen because I read the prologue for, not the prologue, but the blurb for the back of the book of Fire. Catherine and somebody fall in love and they figure out that Marielli, who was guardian of the chess set, was still alive. And that now that Cat was passed to Catherine, things were going to be different. Basically, Marielli figured out that the chess set has a recipe for immortality, or the Fountain of Youth, I guess you could say, and then she stopped taking it once Catherine got her hands on it, but Catherine wanted to bury it again. And not find out about the Fountain of Youth, because she didn't want to live forever. And she figured if the information died with her, it'd be good. And the Book of Fire is about her daughter and future dealings with it, because it comes back up in the second book. So, there's that. What book did it remind me of? It did not remind me of any book, because I had not read that far into the story to be reminded of a book. This book, as you know, is part of a series called 8. The second book in it is called Fire, and it is, I think, 20 years in the future and deals with Catherine's daughter. That's about all I know. Sorry. I unfortunately write this book a 2 because I could not get into it. That does not mean that you might not get into it. Maybe you like the precipice. The blurb at the top probably didn't give you a good enough understanding of the blurb within. So the blurb on the back of the book I will read to you now, and if you think it's something that might be a 5-star reading for you, you go ahead and you read it. It is New York City, 1972. And this actually, I don't understand why this part is first, because you don't get to them until the second chapter. A dabbler in mathematics and chess, Catherine Velas is also a computer expert for a Big 8 accounting firm. Before heading off to a new assignment in Algeria, Kat has her palm read by a fortune teller. The woman warns Kat of danger. Then an antiques dealer approaches Kat with a mysterious offer. He is an anonymous client who is trying to collect the pieces of an ancient chess service. Purported to be in Algeria. If Cat can bring the pieces back, there'll be a generous reward. The south of France, 1790. Marielle de Remy and her cousin Valentine are young novices at the forest-like Montaglane Abbey. With France aflame in revolution, the Duke is burned to rebel against constricted covenant life, and the means of escape is at hand. Buried deep within the abbey are pieces of the Montaglane chest once owned by Charlemagne. Whoever reassembles the pieces can play a game of unlimited power, but to keep the game a secret from those who would abuse it, the pieces must be scattered throughout the world. So, if that fancies you in any way, shape, or form, you go ahead and read it. Just because I didn't like the book doesn't mean you. So if you think I deserve a like, a comment, or even your lovely subscription, drop it down below. I will see you next illusion.